Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 194, and for this one, we're playing our last session of 2021. So we're at Bellagio playing 510, and there are quite a few interesting situations that I think you guys are going to enjoy. But before we get started, a couple announcements to make. One is that we're doing our monster meetup week at the lodge, probably starting today for a lot of you. So the 24th through the 30th, Doug, Andrew, and myself, we're all going to be playing on these live stream games on the Lodge Live's YouTube channel, so go ahead and check that out. Be sure you subscribe to it. I have a link down below in the description box. But Monday the 24th, which is probably today for you guys, I'm going to be playing, I think we're playing 5-5 on stream, so me, Andrew, and Doug. And then at the end of the week, Saturday the 29th, I'm going to be playing 100-200 no limit. Be sure to watch that because that's by far the biggest game that I've ever played. And then there's just stuff going on all week. So I'll have more information below in the description box. And then also Andrew and I are going to the Hustler in Los Angeles, February 5th and 6th. So if you're in the area for either of those events, come hang out with us. We're going to do the biggest meetup game ever in Texas on Tuesday the 25th. So hope to see you guys around. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to be going over my stats for 2021. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're on our way to the strip for my last session of 2021. It's been a great year of cash games for me, and I'm looking to expand on it here at Bellagio. I buy into the 510 game for $1,500, that's the max. I'm about to head to a table that's just starting. Something that usually doesn't occur happens. The floor who's working is named Rachel. She told me that she enjoys watching the vlogs. She jokingly put a post-it note with my name on it at one of the seats, then tells me that's where I should sit because it'll be lucky for me. She made it clear that I'm actually free to sit anywhere, but if her intuition is telling her that this seat is lucky, sitting there seems good to me. I'm gonna trust your opinion on it. I'm well rested, in a good mood, and ready to play my A game. Hopefully I can win some money quickly because I've got some last minute Christmas shopping to do, and keeping the girlfriend happy is expensive. We begin the session at 1:37 in the afternoon, and it doesn't take long at all before the action finds us. About 15 minutes in, we're dealt ace-king offsuit in the hijack. It's nice to be dealt a premium hand right away. I raise to 30, the button calls, the small blind calls, the big blind appears to be a recreational player, he 3-bets to 150. The big blind only started the hand with 950 total. I don't want to call and have the opponents behind me call. Ace-king is much better heads up than it is multi-way. I 4-bet to 400. I'm fine getting it in for 550 more if the big blind jams. The button folds immediately, the small blind also folds, the big blind is having a tough time deciding what to do. Ultimately, he calls for 250 more and has way less than a pot-sized bet in his stack. We're going heads up to the flop in a 4-bet pot in position. The dealer puts out queen 4 deuce with 2 hearts. We completely brick it. The big blind checks. I'm not really sure what to do with these stack sizes. There's a good chance that the opponent has the same hand as me. Perhaps I can bluff shove to get him off a chop. Maybe he'll even fold a hand like jacks. If he has queens or ace queen, we're in big trouble. That's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm going for it.
All in.
Once or twice.
It's up to you.
I always do it twice. I'm good with whatever you want.
Twice is fine. Well, this isn't good. We basically get snap called, and we could be drawing close to dead, or the big blind could be free rolling if he has ace-king with a heart or 2. We're running it twice. I'm expecting to lose both. Not exactly how I wanted to start the session. The first turn is the 6 of hearts. That isn't good at all because we're no longer beating flush draws. The river is the king of hearts, giving us top, but there are 4 hearts out now, so we don't have all that much showdown value. It's time for the second run out. The turn is the 5 of diamonds, giving us a gut shot straight draw. The river is the jack of diamonds, giving us nothing. We're not in good shape. The opponent called my jam, so I somewhat embarrassingly show my cards first. The opponent reaches to turn over his cards. That's never a good sign, but he shockingly has pocket 7s with no heart, so we actually end up splitting the pot. I'm really happy about that, and also extremely confused about some of the things that the big blind did. First, he 3-bet squeeze with 7s. That's not a move that you see very often. I don't hate it since sometimes he might be able to win 90 without seeing a flop, but he could have called for 20 more to close the action with a hand that plays really well multi-way. After that, he calls the 4-bet for 250 more despite only having 550 behind. Then he calls the jam on the flop without improving and is somehow actually correct. He reads me like a Dan Brown book and gets it in great. I have to get lucky just to avoid doubling him up. The interesting thing is that if he had played his cards face up, I probably would have done pretty much everything the same. Unfortunately, these boomers don't like folding. I at least make a tiny profit after the big blind and I split the pre-flop calls from the other opponents. I'll take it. Next, Rachel moves me to a seat in the main game where we pick up ace-7 suited in the hijack. Rachel says that this new seat is also lucky. I suppose that the first one was sorta lucky, but the verdict is still out whether she's really in tune with this sort of thing. I'm skeptical that she may not be able to read seat auras even in the slightest. This one is a straddle pot. I raised to 50. The big blind calls, under the gun calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop in position. It comes 10-10-3 with 2 spades. It checks to me. We've got the flush draw and 1 over. Occasionally I'll bet in this spot. Here I check back to guarantee that I'll be able to see the turn. The dealer puts out another 3. Ace high is likely good. It checks to me once more. I bet 40 to deny equity. It's a tiny sizing that people may not want to fold some worse hands like king high to. The big blind lets his cards go. Under the gun calls. Still, I don't get the sense that he's strong. It's down to heads up, and the river is the 7 of clubs, giving us 3 pair. Under the gun checks. I'm probably best. Not 100% sure though. I check back. I'm completely surprised by what the opponent called my turn bet with. Jack high? What were you doing?
You're exactly on that, just an ace high.
That's better than a jack.
I figure any hit wins.
The opponent had jack 6 offsuit. We might have won the maximum there. It looks like we're in a good game. An hour and a half into the session, we pick up jack 7 offsuit in the big blind. The cutoff button and small blind limp in. I check. We're going 4 ways to the flop. It comes jack 9-7 rainbow. We have top and bottom pair. The small blind checks. I bet 30 for value. No one's scared. The cutoff button and small blind call. We're all still in it, and there aren't a ton of turn cards that I'm going to like. The dealer puts out the deuce of clubs. This is actually a great one. If someone had me beat on the flop, I likely would have gotten raised, and the deuce shouldn't have changed anything. The small blind checks. I'm firing again. I bet 110. Hopefully this will narrow down the field. The cutoff folds. The button calls. He could have a jack of some sort, or maybe he has something like ace-8 of clubs. The small blind folds. It's down to heads up. Let's get one more blank. The river is the 10 of clubs. This is a terrible card. 4 to the straight are on board, and the backdoor flush gets there as well. I check. It'd be great to see the opponent check back a hand like queen 10. Nope. The button bet's 220. It's hard to come up with hands that he could be bluffing with, but you guys know me. I can't help myself when I have a decent hand. I always tend to call in spots like these. Not this time. I fold showing some semblance of discipline. The button is a viewer of the channel and flashes for the camera that he rivered us with jack 10 offsuit. He has a slightly better 2 pair. We do well to one time not pay someone off. When you're removed from the situation, it's a super easy fold. When you're sitting there playing for a while and 2 pairs the best hand that you've seen all session, it's harder to let go sometimes. Another hour and a half would go by getting dealt rags. I take a break to reset mentally. Been playing almost 3 hours and about as card dead as I could be right now. So just trying to battle with myself a little bit, and good idea to just take a break, kind of regroup, and come back and stay focused. Not long after, we pick up pocket 4s under the gun +1. It's a straddle pot. We're first to act and raised to 50. The big blind calls, under the gun calls. Under the gun was the player who called me earlier with jack 6 offsuit when I had ace-7 of spades. He switched seats and is now on my direct right. I'm glad to be getting involved with him. We're going 3 ways to the flop in position. It comes ace-9-5 rainbow. At first glance, this isn't a very good flop for us. At second glance, it's also not a good flop for us. At third glance, it's not so bad. We open from early position and it's an ace-high board, which is great for our range. It checks to us. After being card dead for a long time, people are likely perceiving me to be a tight player, which should help me get away with some more bluffs. I bet 110. If I get called, perhaps I can hit a 4 or pick up some equity if a deuce or 3 comes on the turn. The big blind folds, we get through him. Under the gun is a sticky dude. Remember, he didn't want to fold jack high to a single bet in a previous hand. He calls here as well. It's heads up. We don't get a card that gives us more equity. Instead, we get the king of spades. It's a bad card for my actual hand, but great for my range since I would have played ace-king a similar way up to this point, and the under the gun player would have probably 3-bet pre-flop with it. Under the gun checks. He shouldn't be happy to see the turn. I keep the pressure on by betting 330. I'm repping hands like sets of aces, 9s, and 5s, ace-king, ace-9 suited, and ace-5 suited. That's a lot of strong hands that'll be in my range. The opponent doesn't care one bit. He slides in a very disrespectful raise to 800. I can't continue on. I fold, but have no idea what the player has. I thought my second barrel was going to have a good shot at getting through since the king will normally be better for me. It turns out that's not the case this time. The player shows that he drilled 2 pair with king 9. Unfortunate for us, if he didn't improve and let's say a queen came out instead, we probably could have stolen the pot. In make-believe poker, we're up plenty of money. In reality, I'm stuck 800. I add on and switch tables. Sometimes when I'm running cold, I like to put myself in a new environment to help change my mindset. Rachel's the one who facilitated my table change. Upon doing so, she gave me this tiger eye to bring the run good. At every seat that I've had today, she's done something to bring me luck, and I'm getting absolutely smoked. It dawns on me that it's not that she's terrible at bringing the run good, but instead, very good at secretly cursing everywhere that I go. She seems incredibly nice and well-intentioned. I'm not fooled though, she's probably also a cat thief. We're dealt 10-9 suited on the button, a player in middle position raises to 30. The hijack calls, there's a good squeeze opportunity. We're going to be 3-betting this hand in this situation about half the time. I make it 130. I can potentially win $75 without seeing a flop. If I don't take it down immediately, my hand plays well in position. The initial pre-flop raiser folds, he's who I was most concerned about. The hijack calls for 100 more. We're heads up in position, the flop comes King 10-6 rainbow, we've got middle pair and some backdoor draws. The opponent checks. I'm in kind of a strange situation. My hand isn't super strong, but it could definitely be best. I bet 100 to keep control of the pot and deny some equity. This will probably get folds out of some hands like small to medium pocket pairs that didn't improve. Some hands that are beating me might call like King Queen suited, and then some hands that I'm ahead of might call like Ace Queen, Ace Jack, and Queen Jack. The hijack matches my bet. I'm still not quite sure exactly where I'm at. The turn is the 4 of hearts. The opponent checks. I don't want this pot to get too large when I have showdown value. I check back for pot control. The river is the 8 of spades. I'm glad that it wasn't an ace, queen, or jack. If I was ahead on the flop and turn, I'm probably still ahead, unless I happen to have run into pocket 8s. The hijack is assembling chips. My read is that he's contemplating whether or not to bet as a bluff with a missed straight draw. I checked back turn for pot control. I don't like folding to bets after doing that on previous streets. If the hijack actually fires a 270 that it appears he's considering betting, I'm going to call because I don't 100% believe that he has me beat. Having a 10 is a key card, making it less likely that he'd have a set or 2 pair. He would probably 3-bet ace-king pre-flop, and I don't see this particular player wanting to bet for value in this situation with a hand like king-queen or king-jack, although other opponents certainly might. I think he'd prefer to check call in those instances, or just get the showdown for free. In my mind, it's more probable that a bet from him would be an attempt to steal the pot with ace or queen high. The opponent shows some restraint and checks. There's no need for me to bet since I doubt I'd get called by worse. I check back with the winner. The opponent shows ace-jack offsuit for a missed draw. That's what I thought. I was going to call if you bet. I thought you had ace-queen or ace-jack. Thanks. This is the first significant hand that's gone my way in a while. Even at this third table, I hadn't won or really got involved much at all during my time here, which is why the player at the table said finally. I'm stuck, but I feel like I'm on the comeback trail. The issue now is that I don't have a ton of time left to play because I still need to get a gift from my girlfriend before we exchange Christmas presents in a few hours. It's a race to get unstuck, or at the very least, I want to get involved in a few more interesting hands for the vlog. 15 minutes later, we pick up pocket 8s on the button. It folds to me. I raise to 30. The big blind won't let me have it. He calls. This is the same player who had Jack 6 and King 9 against me earlier. He transferred over here after I did to continue wrecking my world. He's an elite bum hunter. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Jack 6-4 with 2 diamonds. There's 1 overcard, but we could easily have the best hand. The big blind checks. Against this guy, I'm betting for value. He's already called me with Jack high with no draw and second pair in the other 2 hands that we played together. I make it 30 again. Betting less than 50% of the pot will allow him to justify calling with a variety of worse hands. The big blind calls. The turn is the 3 of spades. Not bad since we're still beating a ton of hands that the big blind could have called the flop with, like flush draws, ace 6, 9-6 suited, 7-6 suited, and plenty more. The opponent checks. In general, I'll mix in betting and checking. Against this player who's shown a propensity to call me light, I'm going to adjust by betting turn at a higher frequency. I make it 70. The big blind is very much like my career in accounting and isn't going anywhere. He calls. The river is the ace of clubs. Terrible card since the big blind could have ace-x of diamond combinations or ace-6 suited combos. He checks. I was planning to check back if any card other than an 8 came out anyway. I check. We don't have the winner. The opponent shows Jack 8 of hearts. I'm okay with my line of thinking and betting 2 streets. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I took myself just inside the borders of Value Town. I didn't get a full experience or anything, but I got a taste. This guy has now beat me in 2 pots, which means I'm gonna have to punish him. I get the opportunity just a little while later with King Deuce of Diamonds in the hijack. I raised at 30. This is definitely a revenge range mode pre-flop raise. I wouldn't advise opening this hand from this position unless there are very specific circumstances, like you just have the urge to crush someone's soul into tiny pieces. The button who I need to get revenge on, 3 bets to 100. Okay bro, It's about to go down. He's someone that's definitely capable of 3-betting me light. Doug Polk has told me that in heads-up play, King Deuce is a great candidate to 4-bet bluff with. Let's keep in mind that we're not playing heads-up. This is full ring. My revenge range doesn't seem to know the difference. I 4-bet to 350 as part of a covert mission to retrieve some Bradley dollars. Bluffing against this guy has worked out exactly 0 times so far, but as a tribute to Aaliyah, I've dusted myself off and I'm trying again. For your own well-being, don't do some of the things that you see me do when I'm card dead and tilting. The button calls for 250 more. I've gotten myself into a nightmare situation. It's a 4-bet pot that we're playing out of position with a hand that we should have folded pre-flop. I'm digging holes larger than Shiloh Buff ever has. The dealer puts out ace, ace, jack with 2 diamonds. We've got a flush draw, but could be drawing almost dead if we're up against aces, jacks, or ace, jack. There's no way I'm ever checking given how this has been played though. I close my eyes and bet 300 to rep trips or better. I'm hoping my opponent didn't connect.
300.
The opponent snap folds pocket nines face up. The mistake I kept compounding ends up allowing us to win several hundred. We certainly don't deserve it. I was trying my best to punt off. We get very lucky with the flop given what the opponent had. Perhaps Rachel really has been supplying some luck. It's possible that without her insight and lucky charms, I'd have lost a buy-in or more. At the moment I'm down less than 400. I'm okay with that since this session I've really struggled to make big hands. Just 3 minutes later we're down ace-5 suited under the gun. I raise to 30, the hijack calls, the button 3-bets to 120. He's an aggressive player. I've got a hand that I can very reasonably 4-bet with, but I just did it a second ago. It seems weird if I 4-bet again. I'm not sure that I'll get credit for having a monster hand, especially since I 3-bet earlier with 10-9 over the same opponent's opening raise, and that hand was shown down. I don't want to fold either. I call since my hand plays decently well. The hijack also calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop out of position. The dealer puts out King Jack 8 with 2 hearts. We've got the nut flush draw, 1 over, and a backdoor straight draw. I check. The hijack checks. The button also checks. We're going to get to see a free card. The turn is the 9 of clubs. It's no help to us. Our opponents don't know that though. I bet 300 as a semi-bluff to represent a set of jacks, 9s, or 8s, and ace-king. I'm mostly concerned about getting through the hijack since he could have most of those hands in his range as well. I'm not too concerned about the button because he probably would have bet flop with top pair or better. The hijack takes his last gander at his cards before folding. I only have to get through one more opponent. The button is taking a much longer time to consider what he should do. If he calls, I'm planning to bomb a ton of river cards, whether they're the shape of the box that Kurt Cobain has been locked in or not. Okay, this joke is slightly dated since I'm pretty sure that he's locked in a different shaped box now. After 45 seconds of sweating, the opponent folds. We get another big bluff through in a short span. I've been in so few spots where I could bet for value today. It was a grind getting through the session, but I'm fortunate that some of my moves worked out in order to escape with a small loss rather than a big one. I didn't get completely torched like I could have, and probably should have, if the bluff attempts at the end of the session didn't get through. Because of that, I feel okay about getting my girlfriend a nice new purse from the Gucci store at Bellagio. It's been a great year overall. I wouldn't have had as much success if it wasn't for her and others around me. I played for 5 hours today. I lost $130. I'm actually really happy with that. It was just a really tough battle for the first 4 hours of it. I was just getting no playable hands for the most part. You know, the best pocket pair I had today was 9s and a hand that won't even make the vlog. And then, and just very few suited Broadway cards or just Broadway cards in general. So I was trying not to go too crazy. Perhaps got a little bit too impatient with that King Deuce suited hand, but I know in heads up you can 4-bet King Deuce suited. Full ring game, probably don't really want to be doing that. Against that particular opponent, I thought he could be 3-betting me somewhat on the lighter side. So luckily we got a flop that was advantageous for my 4-bet range and even my actual hand, and ended up winning a big pot from that one. And then soon after was the ace-5 of hearts hand, and we got a semi-bluff through there. So I did bluff with pocket 4s, and I actually thought that was a decent spot. It was unfortunate that that dude had King 9 and turn 2 pair. I just had so few hands where I was able to value bet today. So to get out of there only losing $130, I feel good about it. And got my girlfriend a last minute Christmas gift. She's hopefully gonna be happy, so good day altogether. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. Yeah, so that's it, man. 2021 is a wrap. This is the last episode from there, and I had an amazing year. Just worked my ass off, for lack of better words, but I'm going to go over that in a little bit. Before, I just want to mention we're going to be at the Lodge in Austin. I hope you guys can come out. If you can't, then tune in to the Lodge live stream. I have a link down below in the description box to the YouTube channel. I'm going to be playing everything from 2.5 to 100, 200, no limit on January 29th. That's going to be insane. Definitely tune in for that. And we're just going to be hanging out and on the other days and playing and meeting with as many people as possible. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then February 5th and 6th, we're going out to the Hustler. Andrew and I are in the Los Angeles area. I have more information to all that stuff in the description box below, so check that out. But I want to talk about 2021. My computer's acting up, so I'm going to have to break this down into different sections. First, let's talk about the goals that I set for the year. I set these on December 28th, 2020, and the first one is make $50,000 playing cash games. Some of these are more personal, and so I'm just blocking them out because some things I just like to keep to myself. So the next poker-related goal is play 1,000 or more hours of poker, and then some YouTube-related goals are get to 100 million views and 500,000 subscribers. Then study 200 hours of poker and upload 40 complete vlogs. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the poker stuff first. These are my stats for the year. I profited $65,000 over 103 sessions. My hourly was $147 an hour, which is by far the most that it's ever been. That is an insane amount. I would have been happy if it was in the 50 to 60 range. So there's a few reasons that number's so high. A lot of it is just running really good, and especially when I played in bigger games. I also studied quite a bit more, and I didn't really play that many hours. I played 443 hours, and when you play that few hours, you can really just play when the games are good. So that's obviously going to increase the hourly. And then I was profitable for about 74% of my sessions. That is an insane number. Part of that is because I don't like losing. And so even in this episode, had I not had to get a Christmas present for my girlfriend, I would have stayed there until I got the win. And I end up playing for hours when I'm stuck, which is not when I'm in the best mindset necessarily. So I wouldn't recommend anybody do that, but I really enjoy booking wins, and I really hate losing. So I book a lot of small wins, and then sometimes when I lose more than I should, and I have some big losses. But I've also had some big wins this year. Let's go ahead and take a look at the graph. You can see it's basically, straight up for the most part, but around the 30 to 40 session range, I had a little bit of a dip. I think I lost, looks like 7 to 10K there. And then around the 80 session mark, I had my biggest downswing of the year. That was when I lost, I think I went on like a 15K downswing. So, but yeah, I mean, overall it was pretty good. I ended up getting that 15K back super quickly. So I'm proud of that. Profits based on venues. Bellagio is where I spent the most time, and I won the most money. I played some high stakes sessions there that went really well. And this was the first year that I actually played stakes above 2.5 the majority of my hours. So I mostly played 5-10 this year and did really well in those games. Grayton, I only played 6 hours there. That was a 10-25 session, and it was more like 10-25-50. And I had my second biggest win ever at Grayton. So I made a video about that. Be sure to check that out if you get the chance. Red Rock did well. Aria, I got wrecked. A couple reasons for that. One is that I usually, in 2021, I was mostly going there kind of after hanging out with Andrew, and we would go to Javier's, have some margaritas. I played PLO one session and lost like 2,900. And then him and I had some drinks and we were hanging out before playing another session, and I think I lost like 3,000 or 4,000 also. Lone Butte, I got torched in the one session that I played out there. That was a 3-5 session, and just nothing went my way on that particular day. So I'm not going to go over these other locations too much. You can kind of just browse through them yourself if you'd like. Let's talk about profits based on the different stakes. So 510, I played a lot of 510 this year and did really, really well. 2-5, I actually didn't have a good start to the year, but I finished it by having some big wins. I had a 5K win, which is my biggest ever win in a 2-5 game. That was in October. And then 2040, I only played 2 sessions of 2040 at Bellagio, and one of them I was stuck 10K, and then I went on a 13K upswing to end that session, so I ended up winning 3K that day, and then I had my biggest win ever in September, and I won 10,500. So really just pushed myself this year playing higher stakes. And then the biggest losers I had, I lost 5K in 1020. This number is actually a little bit misleading because in October I lost 10K playing 1020, but it was only 1020 for the first half of the session. Once I got to the main game, it was 1020, 40, 80 every hand, and we even had the straddle up to 320 at one point. So it was a way bigger game than it's listed at. But a lot of people tell me that it's stupid for me to play high stakes. And if you look at how I've done in games that are above 510, I'm averaging like $400 an hour in those games. And that's only over like 40 hours. But so it's a very small sample size. I mean, this whole thing is kind of a small sample size. Still, as long as things are going well and I feel like I have at least a slight edge in some of those games, I'm going to continue playing them. And then PLO, I lost 2,900. That's that session that I played with Andrew, although I actually have done pretty well in other games that were PLO, with PLO bomb pots and double board bomb pots. That's reflected in these 1-3 stakes because those PLO double board bomb pots were at 1-3 in Texas, and those games play closer to 510, and that's why my hourly is $192 an hour in 1-3. Here are the profits by month. January, I started out well, had a good month, winning 7,000. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty great. And then April, I got wrecked. That was the worst month that I had of the year. And then August was probably like the 3rd or 4th best month that I've ever had. And then September is by far the best month that I've ever had. I've never won over 20K before. I had my 2 biggest wins in the same month. One of those was in the 2040 and the other one was at Grayton, the 1025. October was the 2nd worst month that I had. That's when I lost 10K in that 10, 20, 40, 80 game. So I also had a 4K loss that month as well. So to get out of there, almost breaking even in October after having 2 big losses, 2 of my biggest losses of the year in the same month. I was pretty happy with that. November was another good month, and didn't really play too much in December. Let's talk about YouTube stats. I started the year with about 50 million views and 270,000 subscribers. So it took me 4 years to get to those points. And I knew that if I was gonna get to 100 million views total and 500,000 subscribers, it was gonna take a lot of work, and I might not accomplish it, but I put in that work. I got 57.7 million views and 10.3 million watch time hours and 268,000 new subscribers. So I basically doubled my YouTube stats in 2021 alone. Those are insane numbers and a huge accomplishment for me. Really, really proud of that. These episodes, they take me about 20 to 25 hours to make each individual one. I don't have an editor, and I put out 54 videos in 2021, which is by far the most that I've ever put out before. So I usually average around 33 videos a year, and I put out one that was 70 minutes long. So that was my Heads Up WPT Championship one that I did in Cabo. That one took me about 50 to 60 hours alone to make, and I'm just super proud of that, and just really proud of everything that I've accomplished this year overall. So between working hard on the videos and playing cash games, all in the midst of purchasing ownership in a card room has made this year a really special one for me. When I look back in 10 to 20 years, and maybe my kids see these videos at some point, I'm just going to be very proud of 2021 in particular. Now that we've gone through all that stuff, let's go ahead and take a look back at the goals that we set. Make 50K playing cash games. We crushed that one, made 65,000. The best year that I've had in a lot of ways in poker. And yeah, it was a cool year, and I'm glad that I had it all documented. Play 1,000 hours of poker. Didn't get anywhere close to that one. We didn't even get halfway there. But you know, maybe this year we can get a little bit closer. That was probably too ambitious of a goal to begin with. Get to 100 million views and 500,000 subscribers. Those were super ambitious goals, and we just barely cleared those marks. Those are big milestones, but you know, in general, I don't really have YouTube goals so much. I just try to put out content that I think is fun and interesting, that I enjoy working on, and I do really enjoy sharing my progression as a player and just my poker career with you guys. Studied 200 hours of poker. Didn't do that at all. Probably studied around 60 to 80 hours. I think studying is really, really important when you're first starting out in poker. And then as you get on in your poker career and you're a winning player, you know, you don't need to study quite as much unless you really want to move up in the stakes, and I definitely do. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Upload 40 complete vlogs. That is a funny stat to me because I actually hadn't looked at these stats since I made them until a couple days ago. So I thought that the goal was to make 50 complete vlogs, and so I destroyed this 41. To do over one a week, to dedicate that much time to it just by myself was pretty cool. Let's talk about 2022 goals, and I don't really have any. I don't think it's a good idea for me to do a profit goal. I just have my mind on different things. I'm going to be playing 100-200 on Saturday the 29th in that live stream game. I'm going to be selling, you know, some portion of myself to play in that, but that's going to be 5 times bigger than the biggest game I've ever played. And if there's straddles on, it'll be 10 and 20 times bigger than the biggest game I've ever played. So I could easily lose 60,000 or so of my own money, and that's something that's scary for me going into it. But I'm going to continue to try and play my best, and it's going to be good for the lodge. It's going to be something fun for the first time I'm ever, you know, hosting an event at a property that I'm part owner of. So I do want to make that trip special, and there's other ways to justify it. But if I lose $60,000 in that game, then getting out of the hole for the rest of 2022 would be a giant accomplishment. And for that reason, I just don't think that I need to do a profit goal. I don't want to put extra pressure on myself. I definitely felt it when I started talking about this 50K goal with you guys in 2021. And I don't want that kind of thing to weigh on me. I just want to focus on getting more comfortable playing higher stakes and improving as a player. And I think that'll make me a lot more money in the long run if I just don't add anything to it. So, you know, I think doing an hours goal this year makes sense, but there's just other things that I'm focused on and other projects I'm working on that I'll be sharing with you guys soon. So I'm excited for that. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're staying safe. Good luck in 2022, and I'll see you next time. Did you get a good one?
Mm-hmm. Are you taking a picture of me?
No.
What are you doing? Do you like it? Do you think it needs to go up one? Or is that a good spot?
No, it's a good spot. Looks great.